Hi, I'm Taylor from Revival Cries, and I just want to give you a little bit of a testimony um, because I realized I never really have done one, and I think it's because I didn't really know what my testimony was, but I definitely knew what it wasn't. And so, over the last few months, um, years really, I realized so much that there's a season for everything. And I remember when I was younger, I'd always heard that we're going through a season as a church. We're going through a season as a country. We're going through a season, even couples, we're going through seasons. And I never felt like I had a season. I felt like I was constantly stuck in this despair and this depression and sadness. And I never really understood it until I hit rock bottom. And I found myself with almost nothing. And I didn't realize at the time that I'd had such a ungrateful attitude, and I didn't understand gratitude as much as I thought I did. I understood the concept of gratitude, but I never really understood gratitude. And it wasn't until I hit that rock bottom that God actually showed me what gratitude was and how much I had actually been blessed. And I remember there was one day I was sitting on the couch and I was just so upset, and I was like, God, why would you allow me to be put in this situation, this unsafe situation? Why would you allow me to have to suffer like this? And I opened the Bible, which I hadn't done in months, and it opened to Job. And it was the first page of Job. And I remember it was so odd because I'd heard of Job, and I'd always known Job as a story of testing, which it is. But I never read to the end. And I never I was never told. I never searched to find out that Job was replenished. His life was replenished by God. And so I'm sitting there bitter and upset and tired, wondering if this is some cruel joke that God is playing on me in my Bible. And I started to read, and I read and I read and I read, and suddenly I just understood. Because no matter how many tests he was put through, no matter how upset he was, no matter how sick he was, no matter how much pain he was in, no matter what he lost when he had nothing, he still praised God. And I looked back at my life and I realized that I had been so lukewarm, and I had not been praising God the way I should. I had not been grateful for the things that God had provided for me. I could have gone homeless, like fully homeless, but I still had a roof over my head. I still had four walls around me. I still had a dog. I still had food to put on in my mouth and in my body. I still had people around me who could protect me, and I had people that I could protect and care for. And it just opened my eyes so much to, even though I might not be comfortable, even though I might not be happy, I'm still so blessed. And when I changed my attitude, suddenly my life changed. And suddenly I started praising God for the little things. I started praising God for waking up in the morning. I started praising God for giving me food. I started praising God for, even honestly, I started praising God for rain. I started praising God for sun. And everything changed when I changed my mindset. And as I've changed my mindset over these last few years, I've noticed how much God has blessed me and how much God has opened my eyes. And I think one main things that I could tell you, if ever you were searching, if ever you were stuck, is that it does not matter what you don't have. And I know when I say that, that's the one thing that I didn't want to hear when I was stuck on the bottom, when I was near homeless, when I stunk so bad that people didn't want to be around me, when I had so little concept of self, really, that people didn't even want to talk to me. But God raised me from that rock bottom, and God gave me a way to have faith, and I found faith, and it's just so new. And all I can tell you is praise God and have faith And even though you might not know what's happening, God is still there and God is still moving. Even if you don't know what is happening in your life, in your finances, there's something going on behind the scenes, and all you have to do is have faith and pray.